Hello and welcome back to the ministry. Today, God gave me this revelation, and I'm going to start with this scripture. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, but evidence of the things not yet seen. A few days ago, I was sitting in the presence of the Lord. It was the weekend, and I was just sitting in God's presence. I was praying about some things, and I was listening to one of the people that I listen to for his prophetic marriage prep thing. And in that, the person asked everybody to write it down. Write down something that you would like to see. Because as we know, Habakkuk 2 and 2, write the vision and make it plain on tablets for runners to go and get for its appointed time. In that, I did a prophetic act of writing down the schedule. And I ended up taking the time to sit before the Lord and pray after I wrote that schedule down. In me sitting in prayer over it, I remember saying to myself, I do believe, but help my unbelief. This has been a prayer that I've been praying periodically over the past few week or two, because this is a season where God is manifesting the blessings that we have prayed for. But for some of us, it has been so long since we've seen the truth of a manifestation of something that we truly desire to see manifest. And just as I said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, but evidence of the things we have not yet to see. It's a faith move to even write it down sometimes, even anymore, because of the fact that we can make plans, but that does not mean that we're going to see or receive it in the time frame in which we think that we will, because we must release our expectation of when and how it's going to happen. So I literally took two phones and scheduled on this one and on my actual phone that works. And it was a faith move to do that. But I did it. And these past 2 days have been me stepping out on faith in action to what I wrote in those plans. I did everything I wrote down, right up until the point of having lunch today, which is something I actually don't ever do on Saturday. I never eat on Saturday. But it was a faith move. And I realized that the faith move was for me and God, not for what I was expecting. What am I saying? Why did I bring that information into you? Because of the fact that some of us are holding ourselves back in not moving. Some of us carry one of three things: pride, control, and in some cases, it's a little bit of vanity. But Romans 8:20 speaks about God will allow you to become subject to your own vanity in order for the hopes in the future. Because he's going to be able to break something in you. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was pride, it was shame, and it was self-control. These are all things that are hindrances. Only pride will create a level of shame because you want to have control. And that shows you do not trust. So when God says move, you don't move. I told you the story I said in the beginning because of the fact that it takes trust to follow a faith move. Because you see, the Lord gave me a dream about 2 weeks ago, and in it, it showed that I was supposed to do something. But in me doing something or delaying the action to do something in that dream caused a whole lot more confusion than was necessary, delayed and rerouted me in the dream. For some, when God says go, he means go. Why? Because if you don't move when God says move, he very well was trying to tell you, if you moved when he said go, you will now be able to avoid a whole lot of warfare that you didn't have to go through if you just did what he said in the beginning. You wouldn't have had to be rerouted. You wouldn't have had to be delayed. You wouldn't have had to walk through that level of confusion if you listened in the first place. But man's own pride, desire to have self-control, brings shame upon himself. Because some people just can't think that God is the one that can lead them. But when they don't take the instruction, they end up in a level of calamity that was unnecessary. Why? Because they didn't move. Ask me how I know. I've been in situations where I delayed action on moving and ended up having to be rerouted. And when I tell you the calamity I ran into because I didn't do what God was telling me to do in that moment. Warfare, confusion. So when God says move, you move. Keep hearing that song. When I move, you move, just like that. That song comes up periodically when I think of certain things. It's like, when I move, you move, just like that. God is saying, when I move, I need for you to move, just like that, or you're going to end up in some trouble. For a lot of us, God's given us the green light for the thing it is that he wants us to do. But at the same time, there are other people that are involved in what it is that we have to do. And they've also been given the green light. But if they aren't willing to listen to God, we can't move. For some of you, it's your God ordained spouse. For some of you, there are people you're supposed to partner with in business. And there's even friendships you're supposed to make. And it's almost as if these individuals will not move. Tiffany Montgomery says this all the time. If it's something that you need, and you need this person to move, if you're not willing to do what it is that God is instructing, you're going to hold them up. So it ends up becoming a scenario of, if a person has your answer to your prayer and they're holding up the scenario, what are you willing to do? For some people, the only differentiation between an answered prayer and a waiting point is a move. I hear a lot of Christians say it this way, that you're one move away. Kind of reminds me of chess. Sometimes you can be one move away from a checkmate, one move away from a draw, one move away from a tie, one move away from winning the game. But you have to move. When God said green means go, go. Because if you don't, it's like when the children of Israel saw the glory cloud beginning to move, they had to follow that glory cloud. Because who's to say what would have happened if they chose not to follow it when it started to move? For a lot of us, our seasons are over, and we're in the waiting period for the transitionary moment for us to walk into what God is showing us. But some of that has to do with another individual, something that we're waiting on, or a place that we need to be. All of these things have to deal with timing. For some of us, we are meant to stand still until the maneuver is taking place. But for others, the ones that need to meet us in the in-between, or the places that we need to go, it's on them to move. Ever notice how you always hear Christians say, especially when we talk about warfare, that in the season that you're in, when it's time for that season to end, there's a level of discomfort that comes. That discomfort only comes to semi-force your hand in moving toward what it is that God's trying to show you. And it's just going to get worse. And it's just going to get worse. I've been seeing the number. What is the number? I saw a lot of numbers this morning, so I can't think of the exact number. But this particular number means to be pressed in on all sides. For some of you, the individual that is meant to help you in this season, whether it's a business partnership, relationship, friendship, whatever it is, these individuals are being pressed. I'm being reminded of Esther. When Esther did the 3-day consecration before the Lord, and Xerxes could not rest. He could not rest because he was being pressed in on all sides, because he was to move and do what was necessary for Esther. Now, Esther didn't know what exactly was happening, but God was moving. For some of you, there are people and places and scenarios that are moving in alignment due to your obedience. You just have to stand still and see the glory of God. But the move ain't on you, it's on the other individual. But things are only going to press harder on that person until they move. Which also reminds me of the scripture where Naomi says, I think this is Ruth 3. It's Ruth chapter 3. I'm not sure exactly which scripture line it is, but it's when Naomi tells Ruth, stay still and wait for him, because he is going to not rest until the matter is taken care of. This is that season. It's no longer on us. We've done the work. We fasted. We prayed. We've done everything that we were supposed to do. We are the ones, just like I said in the review of the movie Deja Vu, we're in that moment in the midst of the chaos that we must stand still, and they'll meet us there. Remain in position. It's only going to be just a little bit longer. These people are going to move. You're going to get what you need. But they have to make the decision, not you. And sometimes that can feel the most uncomfortable, because for some of us, it's not so much that we desire the control. It's the fact that the sitting still in the midst of the moment in which you know movement needs to happen, and you're getting the clarion call saying, move, move, move. To stand still in that moment and wait on God can be so uncomfortable. Also waiting on his move. So my prayer in this season is for any of you that are waiting on a person, a place, a situation to come into fruition for you, that if the Lord is telling you particularly to sit still, you stay in his presence until that thing moves. I'm being reminded of scripture 11:23. God is taking that mountain and he's turning it into a plain. But for us, we just must stand still, as according to Exodus, I think it's 13:14. That we stand still and see the glory of the Lord. Be willing to wait, because all the enemy wants in this season is for you to move out of position too soon. It's not that he doesn't want you to move. He doesn't want you to move too soon. When I made the decision to follow the instruction of writing the vision, I wrote down the schedule. I made the schedule plain, and I did what was on the schedule. You realize that the Lord gave me a vision, a dream, actually several. He talked a lot this morning, because I followed the instruction in faith. Have faith. Trust God. Relinquish self-control. Let your pride go. And don't allow your own shame to crucify you. So I pray anybody that is dealing with shame, that it break, epitomize, be stripped of its power. and his STEMI immediately stop, so that you can move forward into your breakthrough, the break off of this thing, and that you may cross over into what it is God is calling you to do and walk into in this season. So this is Taj McCameron. Until next time, much love, faith, peace, and blessings to you.